are these big rewards that white supremacy gives you? What?
Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. It is time for another installment in our series, our banned book series. And this book is Lawn Boy, a novel by Jonathan Evison. Basically, it's a coming-of-age story about a guy in his early 20s, basically trying to figure life out and trying to figure out what the fuck he wants to be when he grows up, what he wants to do, and not just what he wants to be when he grows up, but how to get to that thing, right? Like trying to figure life out, which sometimes I feel like I'm still doing that at 55. So I just want to put this little tidbit out there. So in 2022, the American Library Association reported that Lawn Boy was the 7th most banned and challenged book in the country due to its inclusion of LGBT plus content and being sexually explicit. Jennifer, did you think this book was sexually explicit?
Well, I have to preface this.
Because I know my feeling on this, but let's get yours
I
first.
have to preface this. For me to read, no.
Mm-hmm.
For a high schooler to read, no.
Mm-hmm.
But when I looked this book up today,
Mm-hmm.
on Amazon, it says, and I think it's because Amazon is conflating this book with another book called Lawn Boy, but we can talk about that in a minute. But it says it's appropriate for kids 9 to 12 years old. That's what Amazon says.
Oh, yeah, that's bullshit. No.
So for me, explicit, no. But I still think all books need to be at age appropriate levels. I do think high schoolers can handle this book.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think anything younger than high school, and maybe with a lot of parental conversation. I'm not saying younger kids can't handle it, but it would be a good book to discuss, to read along with your kid and discuss it as you went, because there are a lot, not just the sexual contents, there are a lot of topics in it that are hard to digest, even for me at 56. Like some of the class structure is something that takes some digestion. So in that regard, no. But again, age appropriateness. I think the most sexual thing in this book was when Mike Munoz was talking about his own experience with another boy at the age of 10.
Right.
Where he and the boy touched each other's penises, even sucked them. It doesn't describe in detail those events.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's kind of like matter of fact, this happened.
Yeah.
But it clearly was something that Mike was thinking about, because it came up several times in his thought processes throughout the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think of it more as like not sexually explicit. In fact, one woman in 2021, a mother in Leander Independent School District in Texas, because of that part of the book, said that the book was a book of a pedophile. But clearly she hadn't read it, because the incident was between two 10-year-old boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It wasn't.
And again, it's not explicit. It's not graphic. It's just, hey, this happened.
No, but she caused quite a shitstorm in her school board meeting that Evison himself, the author of this book, Jonathan Evison, got death threats. And the other book by the same title, Lawn Boy, can't remember the author's name. I'm sorry, I should have written it down. That book was written for younger children, kids 9 to 12 years old. He also got death threats. And his book was actually about a lawn boy who was learning to make money with his lawnmower. It was about financial education in some ways.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with this book. Unfortunate, 2 books, one for a specific age group, one for a more advanced reader, got conflated. Both of those authors received death threats because of this particular mother who decided that this was a book written by a pedophile.
And
or
And
written for pedophiles or had pedophile material.
well, first off, I'm gonna hazard a guess and say that that bitch didn't even read either of the fucking books.
Probably not.
Knowing that people are just hell bent on sending death threats to people, you would think that people would pause and give a little bit of a thought before they start throwing out shit about somebody's book. And then also maybe read the fucking book first.
Well, what's really interesting to me about the whole idea of a death threat is you are worried about children being harmed by reading something in a book.
Yep.
And you are willing to threaten somebody's life. Like, what is actually more harmful here?
Exactly.
And that is the example that you're putting out for your children.
Mm-hmm.
What is actually more harmful to society here?
Exactly. Yeah, that woman can just and all of her ilk can suck it.
It's just that we all know the real reasons why these books are getting banned.
Yeah.
They say something out loud like pedophilia because it works. People go crazy.
It's a scare tactic.
It's a scare tactic. They get really upset. She read specific things from the book completely out of context at the school board meeting. But the real reason people want to ban these books is because it's got LGBTQ content, because it talks about race, because it talks about class disparities. And if you're rich, white, and male in America, you don't want that shit to change. You don't want your kids. I don't understand this. You don't want your kids to change. White supremacy is something, I guess, that's worth holding on to because I mean, really, honestly, what are these big rewards that white supremacy gives you? What, more money?
Well, it gives you you aren't discriminated against.
But it makes you a fucking jackass.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
and what are you really getting? Are you
it's safety. It's safety.
Okay, fine.
It's safety.
Okay, fine. But in the existentially,
no, you don't get shit. But
you don't.
In the real world, practically, yes, it gets you safety.
You do get more money for sure.
It gets you safety. For some, yeah, it does get you more money. Yeah, and it does get you safety.
So what'd you think of the book?
I was thinking about this. I had a lot of thoughts as I was reading the book. And at first I was like, can we get to the point? Like, this is slow. Goddamn, this book, it's so slow. I'm bored, blah, blah. This poor guy can't catch a break, da, 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 da. And so I was literally the last maybe 100 pages of the book were my favorite, but it took a long time to get to that last 100 pages. And so I was thinking about that. And one thing that I hate, whether it's in a book or just in real life, I hate it when people refer to themselves in the third person. And so I read that annoyed the daylights out of me. And so that was very, very annoying.
You didn't like that literary technique, huh?
No, I don't like that technique at all. And so that was very annoying to me. But and so I was thinking, okay, if I were gonna give it, like a rating as far as like how many stars, I was thinking, okay, maybe 3.5 out of 5, right? Like I'm not gonna give it. Okay, I know. I'm getting somewhere. I'm going somewhere with this because remember in our last banned book series, I was like, oh, I can tell already every book. I'm gonna love every book. Da da da.
This is so interesting,
and
I didn't like it either.
Am I glad I read it? Yes. Did I love it? No. Did I like it? Yeah. Is it going to be in my top 10 of favorite books? No.
No, me neither.
But I'm glad I read it. And I will say one thing that I did very much like about the book is that all the people they're struggling financially, they're trying to make ends meet, and the ends ain't even close to meeting.
No, they're not.
Ever.
No.
But Evison didn't make these people tragic or noble. They're just regular people. This is just their experience. They're getting through life. and there you go. Do you know what I mean? And so that I appreciated.
I do.
But did I love this book? No. I mean, I
No,
liked it. It was fine.
it's so interesting that you say that because I was reading along and I was thinking, I don't like this book. And I was thinking, this is funny because Raquel and I say on every, just what you just said, we say on every podcast, we're going to love every banned book. We're going to love it. And so I was asking myself along the way, why don't you like this book? It's not, the writing's not bad. It's good writing.
No, it's not. It's not bad writing.
I didn't find it very interesting.
You know, I think what it was for me is that I was just like, okay, so this guy, goddamn, so his life is hard. All right, everybody, damn, life is hard. Can something happen? Damn, can something happen? You know?
I feel
And I
like,
think that was it for me. I was
and
just like,
I feel like he did that on purpose because that's sort of like the point. This 22-year-old kid who is waiting for life to happen to him. You know, he's like waiting to catch a break. He's like, and I had a hard time with every time I felt like he did something stupid. I had to really ask myself, where does this thought process come from? Because I'm thinking, you know, he legit quit a job for good reasons.
Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah.
And yet, like one woman wanting him to pick up dog shit in the rain. Like, you know, with no real way to clean it up, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is legit. This shit happens to people. And you're like standing there dripping in dog shit in somebody's house and they're treating you like dog shit.
Absolutely.
So legit. And yet, my capitalistically trained brain is saying, don't quit your job. Don't quit your job. That's the only way you're going to pay your bills. Don't do that to yourself.
Don't blame that on capitalism. Well, okay, it's not your capitalistic trained brain. I think it's your realistic brain. Right? Like, dude, how you gonna pay your bills?
Yeah, like I probably would have gone to the gas station and asked for some plastic bags and came back and cleaned up that dog shit because
or just knocked on the woman's door and go, hey, can you give me some plastic garbage bags? I don't have any.
Right. Like I did get annoyed with him.
Oh yeah.
I did. And again, I swear this is the part of my brain that's been trained that's like you have to suck it up and do it. But like he was getting these paychecks and he's going to like a flea market and spending his money on shit. Like he's buying stuff. He bought a fishing pole and a tackle box and he doesn't fish. And I'm like, what are you doing? You
can't. Right. But I will say I did kind of get that because
real.
You know, you go through like long periods of like, I ain't got no money. I ain't got no money. I ain't got, woohoo, I got some money. I'm gonna buy something stupid. Yeah. Like it is real.
I know.
And he, God bless him, he thought that job was gonna be there forever and he was always gonna have some money in his pocket. And he was like, I'm gonna do something stupid. And I will say, yes, ma'am, I have been there.
I mean, I think we all have been there. And that's the part that like, well, maybe not everybody, but most of us who are working jobs have all been there.
Yeah.
Where we did. I remember one time as a youth, I wanted this shirt at the mall so bad. It was a Paisley shirt. I wanted it.
I love Paisley.
I was in Texas and I didn't have any money. So I put it on a credit card or maybe I put it on my debit card knowing I didn't have any money. And then of course it was bounced and then I paid a $38 fee. And then, and by the time I actually paid for buying this stupid shirt, it cost me like 5 times.
Oh no.
But same shit. I knew I didn't have any money, but we were at the mall. My friends were spending money. I wanted to buy something. I knew I didn't have any money.
Yep.
But I'll buy it now and pay for it later. Oh, I paid for it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
I mean, and that's that part of the book is so real. Like when you are working those jobs for shit money, people are treating you like shit and you just want to spend some money.
Yeah.
But you know what?
And you want to do something. You want to do something for the people in your life. You're like, okay, we're going to go to this thing and I'm going to buy us all the salmon plates, and I'm gonna buy us all like something nice because we usually go to these things and we're like, we can scrape together some money and share one plate, you know. So
Yeah.
I get it.
That
It was very realistic.
that
That
part
was.
spoke to me more when he took them all to the buffet, and his brother, who's like eating all the time, was like, and they're like reveling in the food. Like, that's fucking real, right? But
Yeah.
buying a fishing pole when you don't even fish,
It was aspirational.
I
I know,
hear
I
you.
get it. I get it. But I get it. I was like, dude, really?
But I
Really? You
kept,
don't fish?
but in that regard, the book was real. I
Yeah.
agree with you. I think the book was worth reading. I did listen to a few podcasts and things, and one of the person I listened to today said his problem with the book is that he said he liked the writing.
Mm.
I also liked the writing.
Hmm.
He said he didn't love the book. I also didn't love the book. He said maybe the reason for that is Jonathan Evison is a
Mm.
50-year-old straight white man writing a book that's semi-autobiographical about a young half Mexican, half white, gay young man.
Hmm.
And maybe it's a mismatch of, a good
Yeah.
effort, good effort,
Uh-huh.
but could he really ever put him in himself in the shoes of someone who is not him? He's not gay. He's not half Mexican. Yes, he's working. Yes, he did do lawn work. He did do
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
but he did it as a white man, a young
Mm.
white man.
Hmm.
Also, his Jonathan Evison was raised on that island that he talks about,
Bainbridge.
Bainbridge, and he was not wealthy. He was
Mm-hmm.
of the have-nots, and there were a
Mm-hmm.
lot of haves. And so
Mm.
he did see the wealth disparity, of course, but he
Right.
was still a white man.
Hmm.
And I think, and he wasn't gay. And I think some of that maybe, I don't know, maybe it played in a role of the dissatisfaction of the book,
Maybe. Yeah.
but I didn't know that when I was reading it.
No, I didn't either. I didn't either.
And I just heard someone say that on a podcast, and he also was discussing, like, whose right is it to tell this story? Is it Jonathan Evison's right as a
Hmm.
writer? Of course
Hmm.
he can tell any story he wants to
Right.
tell. But should he ethically be telling the story of a young gay Mexican American when he himself is a straight cis white male?
Right. You know, that's a really interesting
It
point to bring
is.
up because that comes up a lot in basically in fiction when somebody is writing a character that is not like them, right?
Right.
And the point is, does this author have the right to do that? But then again, isn't the point of creativity to be able
It's
to
a very
write
fine
things
line.
that aren't your experience? And so I get caught up in that too a little bit, but my thought is if you are going to write a character that is not of your lived experience, do your research. Just do your research.
I feel like maybe he thought he did do his research because he partially lived that life. I heard him
Right.
talking on a podcast, Jonathan Evison,
Mhm.
and he said Mike was a 22-year-old young man mowing lawns. He himself was a 30-year-old man
Mhm.
mowing lawns, and he was trying to find meaning in life, trying to write a novel like Mike himself,
Yeah.
and trying to find himself, was going through the gateway onto the island, which they called, like, what did he call it? Like the gateway of help, or all
Something yeah, I can't remember.
and talking about how no one on this island mowed their own lawn.
Yep.
No one did their own housework. No one cleaned their own gutters. You just
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
add to the list of all the
Right.
domestic duties. They don't do their own domestic duties,
Right.
basically.
Right.
In that regard, when he's talking about class, he probably did live some of that, of
Mhm.
course.
Mhm.
And so it makes sense. Reading the book and listening to him talk, he's a smart guy. He's not formally educated. He didn't go to college. He says that. He says there's a lot of writers out there that have their MFA. He didn't do all that. He wrote from his own experiences.
Right.
So it is semi-autobiographical, but not completely because he's not that character.
Yeah.
So yes, kudos for that, but maybe that isn't why I had so much buy-in to his book, because I didn't feel it.
Or maybe it didn't have anything to do with that reasoning. Maybe, and oh God, I hate to say this, and no offense to Evison, because writing a book is not easy, but maybe it's just that it's his writing style and we aren't
He
that big of
won
fans of it.
he won multiple awards for this book.
And right, and that's great, but that doesn't mean that we necessarily
resonated with
are
it.
going to be fans of this particular style of writing, right? Like there's plenty of authors who have won buku awards and are lauded for their ability, and I can go, okay, yes, I can see the talent in this person's ability and I can see the skill. Doesn't mean I liked it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And they may have done a great job of portraying the characters who are not of their own personal experience, but I could still just not like the writing style.
Some of the things I did like about the book, I liked Mike's internal thought processes about his brother, his mother's boyfriend, his best friend who is somewhat bigoted and
very bigoted.
Okay, very bigoted and homophobic. And Mike's thinking through his loyalty to this kid that he grew up with. I think that was some of the compelling parts of the book to me.
Right.
And maybe that is something that Jonathan Evison lived through. Maybe he worked, he said he was raised in the same manner. Maybe he came across young men who were, I'm sure he did, who were racist and bigoted and homophobic, and yet you have some affinity because you come from the neighborhood.
Yeah. Or because
your mama fed him.
Right. Your mama fed him. Right.
Yeah.
And that kid had his brother's back and stood up for his brother and that kind
right.
of so
and those kind of loyalties are that part of the story was compelling.
Right. And that made me think about our current climate politically, where people are like, yeah, my grandpa loves me and wouldn't let anybody do anything awful to me, but my grandpa's a jackass, and my grandpa says horrible things about women or
right,
or Asian people or whatever. Kind of like with the book The Last White Man, when we were talking about the main character's father, and the main character is like, yeah, my dad's racist, but he's not going to let me die. He's not going to let anybody kill me.
Right. So it's like holding those two truths at the same time. I love this guy. He's my best friend, and he's also an asshole.
Right.
That was, to me, some of the best parts of the book was his own internal conflict with, do I let this friendship go? Do I hold on to this friendship out of loyalty? And then when he was finally telling his best friend about that experience that the two young boys had as 10-year-olds, and his best friend, well, what, are you gay now? And he's like, I don't think so, because that happened so much 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I haven't sucked a dick since,
Right, exactly. But he's like, and what if I am?
Right.
And regardless, stop being an asshole.
Right. And what I loved about that is when his bigoted best friend, whenever he was pushed, he brought it back to their fantasy football league. Anytime a tough conversation came up, he went right back to football, which I think, I'm not a man, but I think that's pretty common in man culture.
Well, because that's safe.
Yes.
That's a safe topic.
All right, we're done talking about gay people. Who did you pick for your fantasy football league?
Right. Exactly.
And to me, in a way, again, I think that goes back to Jonathan Evison. being a white man
Mhm.
in culture. I don't know. I didn't love the book.
Yeah. I did appreciate, yeah, and no, I agree with you. I didn't love the book. I mean, I didn't hate it.
No, me neither.
Will I reread it? Probably not.
I've read worse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, have definitely read worse. Do I think it should be banned? Again, fuck no. I do think there are redeeming qualities to the book. Like I said, the working class, and not just working class, poor. I don't know why we don't just say poor people in this country, because there are people
Because
who are working class who are working, they are working hard and they just ain't making no money. These people are scraping together. But anyway, poor people, poor working people, he presents them just as people.
yes.
It's not tragic. I mean, yeah, it sucks, but he's not like, oh, whoa, it's not overdone. And it's also not, oh, they're so noble in their poverty. Oh, these
No,
people
it's
are
sort of
better
like
than everybody because they are living through poverty. No, no, they're just people.
it's sort of like a slice of the American pie.
Yeah, yeah.
It
It's
is a
literally just, here's what
slice
it is.
of this is what happens.
Yeah, and so that I appreciated, and I also appreciated the discussions about class and capitalism and the whole juxtaposition of, here's this guy Goebel who came from the same
Yep.
situation
Mm-hmm.
that Mike did, but Goebel's got like billboards and he's making money and he's driving this convertible, whatever car, and he's got just money everywhere, just tossing money and all the things. And Mike is like, the fuck? What does he know that I don't know? What did he learn that I didn't learn? And that I thought was very realistic and very poignant, because girl, I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there almost daily. Like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so that I get. That
And you don't
that I
think
get.
that race plays a part of that?
Oh, race absolutely plays a part in that.
Because his friend Goebel, yes, he was poor, but he's also white.
Well, but Nick, not Nick, Mike, also white passing,
White passing,
but with a very specific,
sort of. White
yeah,
passing, sort of,
right.
depending on what crowd he's in. Because
That's true.
when he's with and around other Mexicans,
Hmm.
they know who he is. They
Oh,
call him
they
they
know.
call him Miguel.
Yeah, they know. Well, and there's his last name, which is a dead giveaway. His last name's Munoz, for crying out loud.
Right.
So that's a dead giveaway. But if he had a different last name, but still half Mexican,
Depends on where he is.
that's a
Depends
good
on
point.
where he
That's a
is,
good point.
because my girls have the same thing.
Hmm.
And the minute Olivia was in school in New York City,
Hmm.
she was identified. In Michigan, little dinky town, everybody
Yeah.
thinks she's white because her mama's white. But when
Mm.
she was away from me and she was in a bigger city, people saw her Latina heritage,
Yep.
right? And I think it
Yeah.
depends on where you are
That's a good point.
and how much people are paying attention and what do they want to see. Sometimes
Yes.
people see what they want to see.
That is very true. That is
Uh,
very, very true.
I want to read something on page 317. This is after the book is over. It's in the kind of like the prologue, the
Oh, the Great American Landscaping Novel, an essay by Jonathan Evison. I
yeah,
I bet I underlined the same thing. But go ahead.
on page 317.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So he says, for many years, I've been stewing on a novel centrally concerned with wealth disparity and class. It's a theme I've explored to some extent in all my previous novels. But I wanted to write one that zoomed in specifically on the double standards that exist between the haves and the have-nots. A book that highlighted the myriad indignities, vagaries, and obstacles of poverty in America in the 21st century. I wanted to write a working class novel that did not patronize the working class, one that did not politicize them as such or ennoble their poverty, one that painted them three-dimensionally so that all the characters came to life. And then if you switch real quick, there's several paragraphs in between, but at the very end of page 318, he says, there are Mike Munoz's, I can't say that plural.
Munoz's.
Munoz's.
Yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
There are lots of Mikes.
There you go.
All around us. And in telling this story, I hope I've shown him the respect he deserves.
Yeah. I underlined some of what you read, and then I underlined some other stuff that you didn't read. But yeah.
So I think what I get from this and hearing Jonathan talk on a podcast is that he really wanted to talk about the class struggle. And in the area that he grew up in, according to the one podcast I heard him speak in, it wasn't Mexican people, it was Japanese people that he was surrounded with. But it was still an important story for him to tell. And he has talked about how with, what's the right word? We used it in the last podcast last week, the homogenization of the US, of big cities, of towns like theirs. He said now in this small town, they have more people, bigger diversity, more people of color, but they're more homogenized. He was talking about the bars he talks about in the stories, the little lives and the little subcultures that existed everywhere. He's like, now almost all of that is gone. And now we have these breweries where everyone's drinking the same, that they look the same, they're wearing the same clothes. There may be more color, but we're homogenizing as a culture. Yeah. And so we're losing, he said when he grew up, they had a little folder of the information of the history of their island. And now that's not taught anymore. Wow. And so we're losing the truth of history. And I think for that, I respect him as an author because he's trying to talk about these inequities in a way that if I was a white American male and I picked up this book, maybe I would read it differently than being a woman who picks up this book and reads it.
I wonder
too, because it's a different voice than we're used to reading, I think.
Yeah. And
he cares deeply. He
really does. And it is an important discussion to have about class disparity and wealth inequities and all of that. One question that comes up in my head during all of this is then just, was it necessary that was Mike's sexuality even necessary to the story?
Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting point.
Because all of the and if Mike's sexuality is an important part of the story, then why is it literally only dealt with in the last maybe 50 to 60 pages of the book?
Well, it's kind of,
is that, and if that's on purpose, is that really a good writing technique?
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that because I'm not gay. So I can't really speak to what that learning about one's own sexuality in that regard is about. And that's why I think perhaps in some ways, maybe it's not his story to tell, because because we don't know what that process is like. And I have to think it's not a monolith anyway.
Right.
Everybody's experience.
Everybody's experience is going to be different. Just like my experience as a woman is different from your experience as a woman. Right. My experience as a Black woman is different from another Black woman's experience.
Right. And I think probably some young gay men are like Mike and don't realize it. They don't
Sure.
realize that they're gay for a while. And some young kids know it right away. Like they know almost they know they're gay from practically the minute they're born. Well, maybe not quite that early, but it definitely wasn't. It was a theme of the book. It definitely wasn't the central theme.
Right.
But that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. I didn't feel like particularly tied to or concerned about the fact that he was gay. One thing that I really liked that he tried to do in the book, which I have never experienced myself, having had crushes on many a gay man in my time.
Girl.
I hear you, not knowing, right?
Yeah.
I liked the way he tried to be involved with this girl, and then, it never went very far. It didn't feel quite right to him. He didn't know why. He struggled with that. Then when he did realize why, he actually tried to apologize to her for like dominating her attention.
Yeah.
But she wasn't having any part of that.
Yeah. She's like, F that.
Didn't even let him get that far, right? Which is fine. But I thought it was really cool that he had those intentions to try to do that. I really like, one of the things I liked about Mike's character is he did have empathy for people around him. A lot of empathy.
Right.
And maybe that's what Jonathan Evison has, why he wants to write about race and LGBTQ issues. And even though these are not his issues, maybe it's that empathy, because that comes through in the book.
Right. Kind of staying on that sort of thought of Evison writing about people that he doesn't specifically have a lived experience of. The character Freddie, I kind of felt like Freddie was pretty
stereotypical.
Very stereotypical and very two-dimensional.
Yep.
And maybe that was a theme of that's just how Mike saw him. But as the writer of the book, I really wanted Evison to present Freddie in a much more two-dimensional way. Like, I'm sorry, but the whole thing of Freddie with the book's been out since 2018.
It's been out, and also I feel like we have to talk about the book.
Yeah, the relationship, like all of a sudden, Freddie and Mike's mom are a couple.
Right.
Like literally so much got just tossed in in the last like 50 to 80 pages. I'm like, I get that he wanted to tie some shit up at the end, but that
was a little too neatly for real life.
Maybe
everybody got kind of a happy ending there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but it was just like you're throwing in too much in the last, like you're doing too much. But back to my original point of Freddie felt very two-dimensional to me.
I mean, we should tell people that Freddie's Black.
Freddie's Black. Freddie is a guy who worked at the bar or restaurant, whatever, that Nick's mom worked at. So they knew each other. Mike, correct.
Mike's mom. Yep.
That they, so they knew each other from that. And Freddie needed a place to live because his place, I don't know, got sold or bought out or whatever. I don't know what the deal was. So, and because Mike's family needed money, and she's like, I'm just going to rent out that shed. We can turn that into, we charge somebody rent for that. And so so Freddie was living there. And so Freddie was just presented very two-dimensionally. And it was just.
I saw that commentary from the first podcast I listened to where the guy was saying, perhaps Jonathan Evison shouldn't write this book about not having the lived experience. He didn't talk about Freddie, but he talked about the Mexican workers that Mike worked with and the one who kept talking. And he was like, he said essay every
every sentence, it felt like.
Right, which isn't He also said he felt that that seemed sort of like the stereotypical Mexican. And I think this is the problem about writing characters that maybe we don't totally understand.
Well, and I'll just throw this out there. Yes, there is some truth in stereotypes in that there are people who fit the stereotypes because the stereotypes come from somewhere, right? So yes, I'm sure there's some Mexican dudes who say essay like every third sentence. Yes,
Maybe
there are some black dudes maybe who sit around, with shorts too
smoking
short,
pot all day
smoking
long,
pot all day, watching
watching
porn.
porn.
Yeah,
Right.
shorts too short so their nuts are like hanging the shorts. Right. So okay, fine. But
That could have been any
yeah, it
man
literally could have been
any man
anybody.
on her couch, right? That
Yeah,
could have been.
exactly. Exactly.
I
So
mean, that is something that happens. What did you think about the scene when Mike and Freddie were driving and they got pulled over by the police officer?
okay, so that scene, it felt pretty realistic, but again, it was just like, oh, we have a black character, let's throw this in there. Do you know what I mean? It felt like maybe Evison was trying to do too much with one book. Like, dude, you can write a a significant look at class and wealth disparities in one book. You don't, and yeah, you can have,
You don't have to
people who
throw
are
in the black
different
guy,
from
the
you.
Mexicans, the gay people.
Right, like you don't have to throw everybody in there, right? And like what you were saying, that yes, Evison grew up in basically this environment,
Right.
but the minorities weren't Mexican, they were Asian. So why didn't he just have Asian people?
I don't know. It's
Like,
maybe because the lawn boy is stereotypically a Latino person, right? Aren't they?
yeah, yeah, and I
Stereotypically in
I
the
wonder
rest
if
of the
maybe his
United
editor,
States,
I wonder if that was maybe
an
like
edit.
maybe his editor was like, most of the country doesn't live where the major uh minority
Yeah, it
is
needs to be
Asian.
Mexican.
So the rest of the country, the lawn boys are all Mexican. So why don't you write, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
It could
I
be, it could be, it could be. And again, I don't want to talk about Evison's heart because I think his heart is in the right
Oh,
place.
yeah, absolutely. I think his heart is in the right place. I
But
really do. And yes, I'm giving the book 3.5 stars. I'm not saying the book sucks. I'm just saying it's not my favorite. And I do like the book. I do want to say that.
I didn't
But
like the book.
but I didn't love it. I liked it. It was fine. I guess
I
like is a strong
I
like
think
is
it
doing a lot of heavy lifting in my sentence.
I mean, all right, it doesn't really matter. The whole point of the podcast is to talk about the book. It doesn't
Yeah.
really matter if we liked it or not.
No, that's true. I do feel
When
a little guilty that I don't love it.
I know because we were like on a roll with all of because they were all so good,
Yeah,
you know?
but the thing is though, okay, I'm gonna work through my guilt here. The book did do what it was supposed to do. What I think you and I want reading banned books to do. It made me think.
Okay.
So it did its job.
Yeah, I did a lot of self-reflecting when I was reading this book,
Mm-hmm.
mostly about why I didn't like it. And I did
Mm,
ask myself several times, is this making me uncomfortable? Is there
mm-hmm.
something in here? Because I do have a lot of family members who are Mexican, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, is there something that this is like highlighting for me? And I'm sure that some of that exists there.
Mm-hmm.
My family were really privileged,
Mm-hmm.
probably because I'm white.
Mm-hmm.
I have Mexican American daughters, but they're white passing like Mike himself. They're seen
Mm-hmm.
in it, and maybe that's a little bit uncomfortable. I will
Mm-hmm.
say that probably is. One of the things I did want to talk about at the end of the book, there are some questions for discussion, page 320. Which one would I ask? I think we go with number 5.
Okay.
Having read Lawn Boy, Do you have an altered opinion about the men and women who tend to lawns and clean houses? Are you able to see them more as individuals you might like personally, as opposed to a clutch of people with whom you have nothing in common? Is there any one thing in the novel that helped bring about a shift in your point of view? I wonder if he wrote these questions or if someone else wrote them, because this is like if you had a book club, this could be your discussion guide, or if you were teaching this book in a class.
Yeah.
These are the things you would ask of your students.
I tend to think that they weren't written by the author. I tend to assume that they're written by the editor or the publishing house and kind of tacked in at the end.
Well, I hate that question. Number 5 that I circled and just read.
Okay. Why do you hate that question?
Because in our political environment, why many Hispanic people are getting targeted and they're being sent away on planes to El Salvador or whatever. There was another one yesterday that went somewhere else. Or they're even talking about opening up a detention facility in Michigan that was long closed. And
oh God,
they're talking about bringing it back to life. A lot of the rhetoric that's supposed to make us feel for these people, that's supposed to touch our heartstrings, says, oh no, if we ship these people out, who's gonna pick your vegetables? Who's gonna wait on you in the restaurant? Who's gonna clean your hotel rooms? That's fucked up, people. This is their value to us as human beings. That's fucked up. And I get that this question is supposed to point at that same thing, but he says, do you have an altered opinion about the men and women who tend to lawns and clean houses?
Yeah.
Are they all Hispanic? Like this question bothers me.
Yeah.
Is this how we look at Hispanic people?
Some people do. Some people, and see, when I read that question, I was like, no, I don't have an altered opinion, because guess what? I see them as people anyway. Before reading this fucking book, I was like, they're people. Like, you treat people kindly. Like, people are people. Goddamn. Oh, reading this book is gonna all of a sudden make me realize that
that's what bothered me.
Yeah.
That's what bothered me about reading the book. That's what bothered me about reading the book. It just, because it's like, duh.
Yep.
It's like, duh, fuckers. Do you have to read a book?
Yeah. But sadly,
and that's why I was saying,
people do.
And that's why I was saying, okay, so Jonathan Evison is a white American male. He's a very published author. This is like his 6th book or something.
Yeah.
People read his stuff. He gets on national bestseller books. He goes on book tours.
Yeah.
The people who pick up this book before it got banned, probably not us. It's probably not targeted to us, right?
Yeah.
They might be white American males, or some of those white American females that we need to talk about who be voting the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
We'll be like,
maybe this book is for them, and they read this and then they go, oh, maybe I should be nicer to the people who are cleaning my house and detailing my car, or cleaning my hotel room, or waiting on me at a restaurant, or ringing me up at Sephora. Right. Exactly. Just maybe I should just be kinder to people
in general
who do things. People in the service industry. Maybe I should just be nicer to people in general.
And maybe I shouldn't ask my lawn boy to clean up dog shit. It's not his fucking job.
Exactly.
Man, if you leave dog shit on your lawn, I'm just gonna roll over it with the lawnmower and let's hope it doesn't get all over your fucking lawn.
Yeah, exactly.
Clean up your own dog shit, or pay someone.
There are services that will come and pick up the dog shit in your lawn. There are services for that. Get one of those.
I think that's the point that rings with me, is that service people are not dog shit. You don't get to wipe your boot of your service people as you're walking in the door.
Yeah.
I think that's why I had a hard time reading it. I also, after this beautiful discussion we have, I don't think we're the target audience for this. This was not a revolution. I mean, not a revolution. Revelation.
Yeah.
This was not a revelation.
Like, we already know these things.
This could be a revolution for some people, but this is not a revelation. This is like I'm reading this and I'm like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's like almost a big duh, but also I'm not a white American male.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's maybe another reason why we don't remove it from libraries, because we have the young white kid that's been raised by that family, that asked Mike to pick up their dog
kid
shit.
needs to read this book and go, oh, okay. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why this is banned, because people don't want their kids reading shit like this and then learning to think a different way than they do.
Well, I think that about sums it up.
So for people that are the target audience, please read the book. Although I sincerely doubt that the people that are the target
are listening.
Are listening to our podcast.
You never know.
But for our listeners that know people who are the target for this book, please just leave the book line around for them so they can get to it, or give it to their kid, their high schooler.
Would you recommend that our audience read the book?
With the caveat that I didn't personally dig it. I mean, I didn't hate it, because God knows, yes, there are books that I hated. There are, but not any that we've talked about. There are books personally that I've read that I just hated and I will not recommend to a soul.
We've read books for the podcast that we refuse to do on the podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah. We've had at least 3 books that I can think of that were sent to us.
Yeah.
We read them and we're like, not a fit, because we don't want to elevate those voices. This voice is worth being elevated.
Yes, I do. Yes. I do believe that Evison's book should be read. Yes.
It should be read.
It should be read. Yes. But like I said, with the caveat that it's not one of my favorites. It's not in my top 5. Am I glad I read it? Well, yeah. I like all of the points that he makes about class and wealth disparities. I thought was great. That's maybe what people should focus on. That's, in my opinion, that's the more important part of this book. Like the part about Mike being gay. Okay, that literally, it just kind of thrown in.
It really didn't land at it. No, for me, again, I'm going to say the most compelling part of the book was his relationship with his friend and how they grew up in the same oppression by wealth disparity. And they grew up to think differently about race, homophobia. And that could have been enough. In fact, now that I think about it, making Mike gay almost discounts the fact that he thought it was wrong to be homophobic. He could have been a white American male saying, no, I grew up in this oppression and I'm straight and I love me some girls, but it's not okay to be homophobic.
Exactly.
That might have been more powerful, because it takes something to change oneself from the culture that one is raised in.
Which kind of makes me think, are we to think that the only reason he's not homophobic is because he's gay? Is that the only reason? I mean, there's plenty of straight white guys who are not homophobic.
Now that you're saying this, if Evison had written the book from his own point of view, as someone who lived on an island that is like very wealthy, extremely wealthy, but lives in poverty, and his own struggle with class disparity and coming of age, and he described what it was like to work with people who were not of the dominant culture, and to feel the compassion that was burgeoning within him, to not be a racist, to not be a homophobic. Maybe then this would have been a more striking book, because I always wonder, what does it take to change a person's perception? When you're being told something in the media and you're being told it, but it just could have been more compelling to be a little bit more autobiographical.
Absolutely.
Perhaps.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I
If
would
he
love
just
to talk.
hadn't thrown in the kitchen sink, it could have been.
It's like he was trying to hit every hot topic, and you might be right. His editor might have made him do that.
Yeah, I wonder.
Because you get a book about hot topic items, like you have a black person being pulled over by the police. You have a reference to boys touching each other at 10 years old. You have
You
there's a
have
lot.
the hipsters who
Yeah.
are,
Oh yeah. I did like the hipster scenes.
yeah,
I thought
yeah,
those were cute.
it was kind of funny. Yeah, but you're literally throwing in everything.
Yes. Yeah.
It was a little too much. It was a little I think a lot of that was just distracting from what the book could have been.
And yet we would still recommend it for you white straight males out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because maybe those people would have at least some semblance of a conversation about the book.
You all know, our audience knows that Raquel and I research these episodes pretty damn well. We read the book, we listen to podcast episodes,
Yep.
we go online, we look up information about the author, we read things that are written. I came across a Medium article that one guy wrote a book review. He appeared to me to be a white straight male.
Okay.
He really liked the book.
Oh,
he gave
okay.
it huge kudos. He thought it really brought up some of these class issues that we need to look at. I'm glad we read it. I like that we are personally making our own collection of banned books. I'm really psyched about this project. And we had someone on our YouTube wrote to us in the last couple of days, a comment. Thank you, whoever you are. I should have written down your name. But they really liked our review of Margaret Atwood's
Oryx and Crake.
They want to know if we're going to read book 2 of that series because they want to watch it. So next year on our list, I think we should add book 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
We're adding it book 2 to the list. Perfect.
Because a lot of these authors that get banned, they don't just get one book banned, they get several books banned. But thank you for that comment.
Yes, thank you. That's awesome.
I hope you're following along with the rest of the banned books. But they said that they thought that dystopian book didn't get as much attention as it deserved.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. And seriously, thank you to that viewer for watching and for commenting and then for making a suggestion, because that's a great idea. And we are definitely gonna have book 2 in next year's series for banned books.
For those that don't know, Raquel's in charge of the banned book series and she puts together our list. So if you have any ideas, send them on in. We're open to what people want us to read.
Absolutely, because that's cool. Oh man, what a great suggestion. I love that. That's why I'm so jazzed about this banned book series and about doing it again next year, because regardless of whether we're like, oh my God, this is our top whatever book, it's still having an effect on us.
Yeah.
And other people should have the opportunity to read the book and then have their own moments of self-reflection or discussion or just to go, meh, this is my feeling about the book. Why do I feel this way about the book?
And it helped me to really listen to some podcasts about it, and I dig that. I dig that people are out there doing book club podcasts about banned books.
Yep.
It's really freaking cool.
It's awesome. And you know what? I have to say, especially given our current political climate, this is revolutionary that people are doing this.
Revelationary or revolutionary? Just kidding. You do it. You get the words right. It's me that's like, wait, that's the wrong word.
It's
a revolution of revelations.
Right. There you go. But yeah, but I just think that's so huge that people like, I'm still reading, I'm still talking, I'm still thinking for myself. I love it. I love it. That just does something for my soul.
And I have one more ask of the audience. Please give us a thumbs up.
Yes.
Please give us a review. Make a comment. Give us 5 stars. Give us 4 stars. Give us, if you hated it, tell us about that. Like,
yeah, and tell us why. We want to know.
Yeah, interact
what y'all are
with
thinking.
us.
All right, awesome. This was a good discussion.
It was. It actually was one of my favorite discussions that we've had.
Very enlightening. I dig it. Thank you, Jonathan Evison, for writing this book. Yeah, and Jennifer, thank you for having this conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Raquel.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, listeners.
Thanks, y'all.
Thumbs up, stars, comments. Give it to us. Give it to us.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend.
Or you could leave us a comment and a 5-star review, or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks, everybody.